Greetings! Today, I will do a little bit of a different video than I usually make. Usually, my videos are two things that I promised you. One is informative, and second, funny. Well, today, they are going to be informative, but it's not going to be funny. Well, maybe a little bit. But there is a reason for that. The reason is I'm seriously pissed off. I'm pissed off with what's been going on, and I will tell you why. Would you believe me that there is a far more efficient way of destroying vampires than exposing them to either sun or stake or any of the other methods we have developed to disposing of the vampires? Now that the intro is over, let us transform to the professional part of this video, where I will transform personally into a professional person giving you information to what has pissed me off. Not just today, but recently. But I finally decided to make this video. And before we do that, I would like you to click that like button and subscribe to my channel, plus maybe a notification bell, so you stay tuned with the information that I'm giving you, reaching my vampiric gothic niche audience. Thank you, and let's go. Thank you for joining me at this professional part of this video. Now, as I have noticed that this vampire trend has been dying off slowly year by year, I got myself wondering, why is this happening? So I was like, let me do a little bit of research and then find out what is really going on. Do you remember that in the beginning of this video, I told you that there is something far worse killing vampires than either exposure to sunlight or exposure to stakes or whatever killing mechanisms we have? Well, there is. It's exposure to bad media. Allow me to show you what I mean. Now, as I was doing a little bit of research, I punched in this page called Google Trends, where you can actually, by keywords, find out how things are being researched. So, if you go to the Google Trends and you input, you see out here, you input the search word vampires, and you select the location to be worldwide, as well as the time period to be from 2004, since the beginning of the YouTube, to present day, you will see that we have a little bit of regular normal search pattern, which spikes at around 2010, the beginning of 2010, and then it drops off, and it starts dropping off, and it drops all the way up to 2023, and it keeps dropping down. Why? So, before we continue explaining how lore is being destroyed and why this graph shows what it shows, we need to first understand what lore is. It is acquired and gained knowledge throughout history, something learned, something that has been followed. In vampire niche, this thing refers to vampires being susceptible to sunlight and them having to sleep in coffins. Also their weakness to garlic and stake through the heart. Now, there are certain times when you can bend lore a little bit and it will not hurt the overall general experience. Like, if you decide that in your film, certain vampires are not afraid of garlic, the lore hasn't been broken. It's been bent slightly, but the core is still there. Now, let me show you what I mean by breaking the lore totally. This first example that we have is this right here. It's called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a series from the 90s that broke the lore severely. Now, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, why I have a problem with her? And some people will say, oh yeah, but that's the series from the 90s and it was awesome. Yeah, for 13 and 14-year-old children, it was awesome. The true lore vampire believers not understand it. Like, for instance, Buffy, the girl Buffy, is this ultra turbo katana vampire slayer. Watch! And she kills them and she shames them in horrific ways. And vampires in her series are not only lifeless, they're also brainless. So they're idiots. And the conversation that they put in Buffy the Vampire Slayer are totally retarded. They make no sense at all. Like, you wouldn't know that somebody is a vampire without their mask on. That's what I don't like about vampires. You know, vampires have speed and they should have strength to a certain point and speed to a certain point, right? But she kills them like they're children. So yeah, there we go, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now the second one that's sticking in my eye severely, ta-da, is the Twilight. First of all, let me tell you one thing. Vampires do have speed, and vampires do have strength, but they are not Superman, and they are not strong as Hulk, and they do not have the speed of a Flash. Those attributes belong to heroes, not villains like vampires. Maybe some villains can have them, but vampires are a special kind of villains. So, when you show me some kind of super strength where a guy stops a car with his hand, a vampire, I'm asking myself, this is a Superman trait. This is not a vampire attribute. Vampire attribute does have strength of 2 or 3 or maybe 4 men, maybe 5, right? If he's really old, elderly vampire, he will have a strength of 7 or 8 men. But not even 7 or 8 men together holding their hands couldn't stop a running car going 100 miles per hour towards another car, and one human being and one vampire are in between those two crushing cars? No way. So that's number one. Number two, going to school. Vampires wouldn't go to school just to try and fit in. Exposure. Vampires would always minimize exposure. Third, they wouldn't fall in love. Seriously, there's no emotions. You're dead. Your heart doesn't beat. Your brain works differently. You have been reanimated by the necrotic evil energy. There's no falling in love. What the hell is that shit anyway? The major breaker of the lore is vampires sparkling in the sunlight. Imagine this. Imagine living in the land of Twilight and you're a vampire and you get hit by sunlight and you don't die, but you do run a severe risk of accidentally becoming a sparkly superstar. Come on, guys, seriously? That is what killed this franchise for me all over. Done, gone. And now, moving on to the final one, the final lore killer, right? Something that doesn't follow the story throughout history is the Vampire Diaries. Oh my god, that is the worst. Have you guys seen that? I've seen only a couple of clips, maybe 1 or 2 shows, just for me to know what I'm talking about. And I've seen enough. I barely made it through the shows to be able to talk about it on this review. Well, not review, but slasher. This is a slasher. This is a true vampire slasher of bad vampires. There we go. In Vampire Diaries, they always fall in love. They always have to have a romantic scene. And the vampires act just so stupid. Plus, they're also walking in the sunlight like these oldest vampires. They're immune to everything. To sunlight, to steak, to fire, to... Come on. But they are not immune to flowers. Ta-da! Seriously. In this series, there is one scene where a guy falls down into this kind of well kind of thing, right? And there's water in it, and there's flowers floating in the water. These flowers. And he starts to burn, like his skin starts to burn. I'm like, what the you cannot kill the lore like that. Seriously, flowers? What's next? A bouquet of flowers for a vampire. Ta-da! No, we can't do that. That's why I have a special surprise for you. That's why you like my channel. Now, all of the stuff that I do in my vampire series, where I act, I have fun. I do have fun, and I do make comedic moments and stuff. But when I start producing movies, finally, like this short film that's coming up, Interview with a Vampire, I promise you, my audience, my niche audience, that I will present a vampire the way he or she should be in a vampire movie. Not only following the lore, but deepening it. I'm going to keep the core rules of the lore that we have acquired through history about vampires. I will dump some stupid lore like garlic and holy water, which makes no sense whatsoever. Staking through the dead heart also doesn't make sense whatsoever. But I will keep the lore. Sunlight destroys necrotic energy. That's it. End of story. There's no avoiding it. There's no circumventing it. There's no way around of being killed by sunlight. Okay? So I promise you, that the short film will show the way vampires are really supposed to be like. That being said, I want to thank you for being with me so far. And I want to thank you for supporting my channel. Keep supporting it, and I will provide you with genuine, vampire lore and genuine good vampire ambience. Communication. Communication is one other thing I will touch on in vampires, which is the most important thing, but I'm preparing a big giant video about it, so stay tuned. Thank you for joining Kane Harkonnen Studios.